Hi, one more video, last one, um, and it's about critiquing. I wanted to explain and sort of illustrate or make an example for what I'm hoping will happen and how I'm hoping it will happen and why I think it's a good way for critiques to happen that way. Um, I guess the reason behind my emphasis on this part of the class is that I think that critiquing is much more than an opportunity for you to see your peers' work and to respond to it and interpret it. Um, that's very important. It's valuable for each one of us to learn what it is that our work does, and that's what the critique has to offer for each one of you in one respect, to hear what people are seeing in your work, experiencing emotionally, psychologically, conceptually as a result of it. Um, so then you can respond to that in terms of what you think is successful, what you think is not successful. But also for all those of you who are responding, and this I want to emphasize because I have been in critiques and I have taught courses with critiques, and the default is silence. Um, there is, yeah, basically, it's really hard to get people to participate in critiques, and it's a loss, right? Like it's a it's a loss on your part if you don't, because the the skills that you develop in learning how to break down a work that you are looking at are invaluable to your own practice. The way in which you can decipher um, how things operate in a piece, both materially and conceptually, and all the other different ways that works work, uh, those skills that you develop in critiques you use all the time when you're looking at your own work and trying to see what's happening with it, um, trying to make a decision about where to go with something. The ability to kind of step back and be like, okay, well, what actually is happening here now? The ability to do that comes from your practice, I think, with critiquing other people's work, and it happens with you see work that you think is really wonderful, you're excited by it, and it's like, wow, to try and understand what is at play there, and then maybe you can be in dialogue with that work. The Your ability to analyze how it's happening um, is also really valuable there. So that said, um, there are some things that I think are valuable ways to approach addressing a work. Start by description, always. Um, like, I don't actually mean always, but if sometimes you see a work and there's sort of like an immediate in, and you're comfortable with starting to talk about it. More often, it seems people come and encounter things and they don't know what to say. Um, and in that case, and even not in that case, I actually had the opportunity to be in a critique with Mary Kelly, and she has this super intensely rigorous method, and it really is a method. Like for her, it's kind of a science, and you don't diverge from a descriptive beginning, and it's intensely specific and detail oriented, the way that she approached it. And it sort of seems tedious, right? Like she was like, we were looking at a painting and it was every single detail of the way that painting had been put together got named, like what has happened to the edges, what kind of paint is it, how big is it, what is it kind of surface, is it a panel, is it canvas, and then as we went through naming all of those elements, we talked about their potential historical, conceptual, emotional, affective impact, right? Um, And now this seems like a better example than I was going to use this thing behind me, which I made. Um, but now this painting seems like a more useful example, so maybe we'll just skip it, skip that. Because, yeah, so it was like you come into counter with something, and before you say, "Oh wow, it's beautiful," or "Oh gee, like that picture of a little girl makes me think of my sister, and my sister's like this," and then bam, you're sort of almost in another world and quickly sort of away from the work. She forces you to attend specifically to the choices that have been made in sort of articulating that work. Um, and that is what I want you to do. I think it's it's a rigor, right? It's a kind of skill, and it's a bit technical, but I think that that kind of approach cultivates a, a an ability, a capacity to read works and understand what's happening in works.